Kumlan Ablat Gemara. Today is Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus, Yitzhak Kislev. We jumped everybody, and we are in Daf Memtes Amad Al Masech Nedarim. The Gemara covers every possible subject, and today we're going to learn a little table etiquette as well. We already had some in Brachas, and we'll have some today. So now we're talking about continuing the subject of the Nedarim, but now we're talking about when people use their vernacular, how do we understand what they're saying? Like people use words. Sometimes they use it loosely, sometimes they mean exactly what it says. So the Mishnah says, Hanoider min hamavushal. Somebody says he makes a neder, I will not eat cooked items. Cooked. Is mutter b'tzali b'sholok. He's permitted to eat something which is grilled, roasted, and sholok. Sholok is machlekes sheni, where it means stew, because stew is not considered cooked. Or others say, like the Ran, that sholok means undercooked, semi-cooked. Both of them are not really considered mevushal cooked. That's case number one. Case number two. Omar, he said, koinim, I will forbid for myself tafshil. He said the word tafshil. He didn't say mevushal cooked, but said tafshil. Tafshil is a cooked item. She'eni time, that I will not taste it. And by adding the word not tasting it, you would think that it covers everything. Yet, we'll say no. Again, it's very descriptive. Also, you're not allowed to eat any food which has liquid in it, cooked with liquid. But a food that's cooked that is dry, which like wheat or something, so like a porridge, maybe even a rice, things which are not liquid, then you permit it, because that you wouldn't describe it as a tafshil. Umuta, you permitted to eat a beya turmuta and a dalas hermuta. These are two items which are unique, and the Gemara will talk about it, where you cook something 1,000 times, as we'll see in the Gemara later. Case number three. He says he will remove himself from, he will not eat ma'asekadeda, activities of a pot versus a frying pan. Ein asr ela memaised. And what is forbidden? Only things which are cooked only in the pot. Now, things which you start off cooking in the pot, like maybe to soften it up a bit, and then afterwards you put into a frying pan or into the oven. No, ma'asek data means something from the beginning to the end is cooked in a pot. Omar, he says, koinem hayoylik data. Case number 4. If he says anything which enters a pot, anytime one tastes it. Also, then b'cholam is bashim data. Even though later on you move it to a frying pan or something else, it's still included in the issa. Tanya, we learned in a brisa, which the brisa argues on Mishnah. Rabbi Yeshua says if you say mevushal, it includes also totally. I have no necessarily a proof. I have some kind of an allusion to it. It says in Pasuk, the Pasuk says in Tanakh, "Vayivashlu ha-pesach be'esh," they cooked the Pesach in fire, kamishpat, like we're supposed to do. And it says vayivashlu, and we know what is it? It has to be roasted. So we see that Bishul does cover roast. All the Achronim ask, why do you bring this? Everybody else, why do you bring this pasuk? Bring from the Torah. Torah says you should cook the Korban. You should cook the Korban Pesach. Why bring a pasuk Divrei Yamim? All kinds of answers. But the simple answer is, it says in the pasuk bo'esh, vayivashlu Pesach bo'esh. It clearly spells it out. In the same word vayivashlu, it's not just because we have to go reference back to how the method how it's done. See right in the pasuk, it's directly on the fire, and it calls it vayivashlu. So different Rabbi says it's solid. Kemishpat. So now the so why is it only an ayla of zechadav from first pasuk? It says vayivashlu bo'esh. Clear that solely is included. So why you say ein ra'ayla davar zechadav? Because it adds one more word, kamishpat. It says in Divrei Yamim, like the rules are. So you go back to the mishpat, they're tzoli. So maybe you can argue when the bishul could mean both. But if you use it stam, then maybe it's only cooking, not roasting. Here, because it says kamishpat, so we know over here we expand cooking to include tzoli. So it's not a raya, but as a reichafort it is, because they use the word vayivashlu and it's ba'esh. So what's going on here? The crux of the argument follows. We look at the lashon of the Torah, and Tana Dilansav, and our Tana holds Nedarim halech. Look how people talk. You bring a pasuk out, you have a head and a hin. The fact is, when people speak, sometimes we have expression. The Torah also adapts the way people, speak in the vernacular. But because when people say bishul, they mean only bishul, not totally. The Torah may be in Tanakh, maybe bishul means soli, but not when people speak. So our Mishnah holds you look at Lashon Yodim, Rabbi Yeshua holds you go Lashon. That's what we think. Everyone agrees you got Lashon Yodim. Marki Asrei or Marki Asrei, but each place people talk different dialects, different ways of expressing themselves. But Asa the Tani Lan Letzoli Korle Tzoli, or Lavusha Korle Mavushal. By us, we're very specific. So Tzoli means Tzoli and Bushel, and by Asa B'Yesha, I feel Tzoli Korle Mavushal. But in B'Yesha's region, Tzoli is called Mavushal as well. Aiva Korah Nasili brought a pasuk. Asmachta ba'almon. Difficult to understand the question of Korah Nasila when he started off saying Eirai L'Gavra Zeichel Gavra. What's the most question? I mean, even a zeich is for something. So, in other words, it seems from the Gemara here, not that I saw him first saying it, there are three levels. There's a mechusharai in the pasuk, there's a zeich, and a smachta. Smachta is even one step lower. Because there is a machlek is the Ritva and the Rambam in Rosh Hashanah. How do we understand the idea of a smachta, the concept of a smachta? The Rambam says a smachta was purely for them to be able to remember the halacha. So you have to always anchor it on pasuk and Tanakh. If that's that's not even a zeicha. A zeicha for, in the pasuk, it seems to be saying that, implying that. A smachta means really it's totally unrelated, but we use it because somehow, to trigger. So then it seems that that's what the Gemara is saying right here. That it's not even a zeicha; it's only in a smachta. I'm saying the Ritva holds that a smachta is very strong, but in this case here, we're talking about a smachta of nachen. It's maybe a little bit hard to understand. In halacha basa b'chaluk, we have a whole machlekes there where the bishul basa b'chaluk or terzol vashels include soli or not does not include soli, and it does include afia in the Isra basa b'chaluk. But there's another machlekes in halacha. What happens if you speak in Hebrew? In other words, we all speak the Rishonim say we all speak the local dialects. So we speak the local dialects. What do we mean when we say this? What if we actually use the word of Lashon Kodesh? Are you then bound by what it says in the psukim, or even then do we say Gav Lashon Menel? And then about a Shabrai, the Ivrit is not Lashon Kodesh, and there's a famous letter. That's not an issue. Of course, you're speaking Ivrit, there's nothing. But if you spoke in Lashon Kodesh and you use these words, what would the din be then? Okay. Says the Gemara, next piece, Gemara, Kainim Tafshil, I banned this Tafshil. And then we say it only concludes Maisa Kededa, that's Rach, only cooked food that is tender. Says the Gemara, well, Metafshil know that. He said anything cooked. Why limit it? Why limit it? Says the Gemara, in other words, it seems, and I don't care what, thick or thin. I'm gonna buy a watery not. I'm gonna buy a high tana. This tana, kol midid the misachabei rifta tafshil karli. No, it's considered tafshil. If you eat it together with bread, you eat support with bread. No, something which is liquidy, it would use bread as a spoon and eat with bread. But something which is like bread, eat itself can stand alone. You can eat it on its own. It wouldn't eat with bread. That's not called a tafshil. Because Tanya, prove your right from a brayse. It says hanoidim a tafshil. Also b'chomin a tafshil, any kind of tafshil. Also b'tzoli b'shaluk is also forbidden. B'tzoli b'shaluk. Umevushal forbidden also. It's solely b'shalok mevushal, that's lashmani adam. But also bihitri is rakis is also forbidden in tender, like wheat, but tender, which is watery. Because sick people eat it with bread. So we see clearly what's the description of rakis, that it's eaten with bread. That's what the tafshil is. He says it's not so. He was sick. A doctor came in last year to cure him. He saw that he had the gourds, which is like a squash, the family of pumpkin, zucchini, all that kind of stuff. The machaz base that was lying there in his house. Shafke, he immediately walked out. He left him alone. He walked out. He said, Malach Moise Isla London basis. The Malach Hamavas is in his house. I know, what am I going to try to treat him for when the Malach Hamavas is in his house? Eating zucchini, pumpkin, they're killers. So we see from here what? So we see that what you said Hitrius is all right. Hitrius is also that same family, and here it says that it's no good. Says the Gemara. Like kasha. Again, if it's tender, then it's good. And if it's not tender, if it's dry, it's no good. Rava Bar Ula Omar. Rava Ula says, ha bikrogu in the squash itself. The ha bigafei the kro. There's a difference if you eat the outside or if you eat the very inside, the seeds and everything else. And the inside is very good, and the outside is not so good. So you want to said luliva the kro, the inside of the squash. The silka to eat it together with beetroots is fantastic. Interesting combination. And luliva de kisna, and the inside of flax, the kutcha, you can turn it into kutach, into that sound of the with a moldy bread and everything else. Although the dove is there, also you're not allowed to tell this to an amoritz. Now, why can't you tell this to an amoritz? Because if you tell an amoritz, they're going to take all the flax and they're going to wait. It won't wait till it matures so we can use it for clothing. They're going to take it to eat it because it's supposed to be good for you. But Rashi says a fascinating thing. Rashi says here, let's just look at Rashi here. Rashi here, V'dov is also it's about 6 lines on the bottom of the page. Rashi says, you're not allowed to say this with Amoritz. So first he says, Azulka says it, because it's beneficial, it's therapeutic. But also, you're not allowed to give any positive advice to Amoratzim. So Amoratzim does not mean what we think in Amoritz means in Igaramis. We had it where Psachim Nidaf and Test Amoritz. They used to say that if Akiva said when he was in Amoritz, and if he can get his hands on Talmud Chacham, he would rip him apart, eat him like a fish. So we're talking about Amoratzim had this antipathy towards Talmidei Chachamim. So we shouldn't in any way give them positive advice. Others say that the third shot is that because the moment it's nuanced, this is good for you, but this is bad for you. You can't tell them because they don't follow the specifics. They're going to eat the wrong thing, and then they're going to blame it. You gave us bad advice because you told us good for us, and I ate this whole pumpkin and it killed me. So that's why. Because they're not going to follow the rules exactly the way you meant to. They don't look at the instruction manual when they buy a product. They throw it away and they use it, and then they say, "Why did it break?" Says the Gemara, Rava says another thing. He says, the two kinds of sick people. There are regular sick people, and then there is, and you're wondering why, we're saying we have sick people who eat this squash, and then another place says it's bad for you. So we gave answers, depends what part of the squash, it depends what. So he says, no. If it's tender or not tender, or the inside and outside, he says there are two kinds of sick people. There are people who are actually sick, and then man chayil rabban. Here we're talking about the rabbis who generally were not strong. Their constitution was not very strong because Torah mateshes koyach shel adam, the Torah weakens a person, and therefore that's what we mean when we say that they eat it with bread, even though it's bad for real sick people, but for them it's good. Rabbi is consistent with views. Rabbi said, the machlekes when Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yossi says Rosh Hashanah Adam Nidin b'chol yom, and the others say only Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. So Kemam Matzlin, and who do we daven today every single day? Reif Chayla Am Yisrael, Al Kitzili, and those who are sick, but Al Meri, and those who feel bad. Now who's Meri? If sick people are only one kind of sick people, then who's the second one? Keman, Rabbi Yossi, we follow Rabbi Yossi. He says, Adam Nidin b'chol yom. B'da'amak Tzili Umeri. There's another category of people called Meri who feel bad. Tzili means those are really sick, and Meri are the Rabbanon who generally feel weak, So, what do you call it? So how come Taka, since the halacha is with Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, so how come we daven today, or at least according to Buddha and Meir, all the opinions we had in the Tzayin Rosh Hashanah, why do we daven today for Einu? So all the Rishonim deal with that. Bein Tam wants to say there's a difference between preventing from becoming sick or once you're sick to get healed. According to the Rabbi Yehuda and Meir, you cannot daven, I don't want to become sick, because that's judged on Rosh Hashanah. Whatever it is, it is. But once you got sick, you can daven because the Gzeda, whatever this means, in terms of the Gzeda was to become sick. But there's no Gzeda on how long you should be sick for. It's up to you now. Get a doctor, you don't get a doctor. You daven, you do tshuva. So the Mela for Eino is, once you're sick, how to cure yourself from that sickness. That's how the Bein Tam answers. Others answer, if you daven b'tzibur, so that you can, or Rabbi Bitzchak says in the Yofa Tzaka, you can always turn everything around if you scream out, if you push, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, and you can still change your affairs. Second about the it's not included if it's dry. My sister look at Babylon. Our Mishnah does not follow Babylon. Babylon made the following comments. Like Rabbi used to call us Babylonians idiots. These foolish Babylonians, the ochli lachma ba'lachma. They eat bread with bread. Because they would eat this dry like grains or porridge, whatever it is, and use it bread. They're both more or less the same thing. So we see from here that clearly that in Babel it's included in a tafshil because we eat bread with bread, but in that so they don't eat bread with bread. So for them, when you say tafshil, you mean only the davarach. Amrav Chizda, Sebrav Chizda, the Mashal in Lahani Nigdoni, the Hutzel. We once asked these people from Hutzel who were very medactic and everything, or Nakroni who were very clean. No, people who had etiquette, and we asked them, tell me, Hadin Daisa. This these like porridge. What's the best way to eat it? The chite, the michle, the chite, belachma, the chite. What's the best way to eat it? The mechle, the chite, belachma, the chite. You should eat. Let's say you're eating this porridge made out of wheat, so we should eat bread made out of wheat. With the side, if you eat porridge made out of barley, belachma, the side of bread out of barley. I deal with the chite, the side of chite. Bread, wheat with barley and barley with wheat. Rava. Used to eat achle bechasisa. He would eat it with the flour of toasted wheat. So he ate wheat with wheat, but he ate the flour of toasted wheat. Rabbi Barabun found his father. He was eating with his fingers. So today your mother will give you a patch and a the hand, but he ate with his fingers. He asked his father, "Why are you eating with your hands?" Interesting. Why he calls him mar. Rav said, that if you eat porridge with fingers, it actually fills you up better. It's good for you. The choldecaine. Sometimes you go to these Rebbe's tish, you see that on Friday night they eat gefilte fish, tafke with the hands, because it's mevar all the netzutzes and the shamas, the gilgulim, tafke with your hands. Maybe that's what I've meant over here also. Bosim is good not for you, but good for the netzutzes that you're being mila. The whole came betartin, the whole came betlas. These 2 fingers is better. 3 fingers even better. Not just 1 finger. Rabbi said the Chiya's son. So we had a number of times occasionally Gemara where Rabbi trained his son, Rabbi Huna trained his son Rabbi, and Rab his son Rabbi Chia. So Rab once told his son Chia, if they invite you to eat porridge at Parsa, you should walk up to Parsa because it's good for you. If they invite you to eat a piece of flesh, the tutor from beef at Losa Parsa, walk up to 3 Parsa because it's even better. Rabbi said to his son, if you ate something that you don't really like, don't spit it out in front of your teacher. I'll spit it on your teacher. Except if you eat from this squash or daisa porridge. If you eat it and you want to spit it out. It doesn't matter who you're standing in front of. It's like lead that you swallowed. But I feel like Kame Shavim Malka in front of the king. Shavim Malka, plate, spit it out in front of him. Your life comes first. Because it's very hard to digest. Rabbi Yehuda, the Chadochel dice, but one of them eating with his finger dice, and it's very interesting. Rabbi Yehuda had a saying dice is bad. He's saying that dice can be bad. You're seeing more in a minute. Rabbi Yehuda, Chad Ochel dice be'etzbi. So one of them ate dice, this porridge with his fingers, and the Chad Ochel butz, one ate with a spoon made out of wood. So we had a machlek. What's better, with the fingers or with wood, or with a spoon? Malay, the achel behutza, the one who is eating with a spoon. The achel be'etzbi. So we don't know who said what or who did what. He said to the one who's eating with his fingers, "Ad masa atamachleni tzavas soyascha." Because we're eating from the same, we're sharing a plate. You're putting your fingers in there all the time, and you have dirt between your nails, and it's coming off while you're eating. I have to eat your dirt between your nails. Malay, the achel be'etzbi, also the achel behutza. So the one with the finger said to the one who's eating with a spoon, "Ad masa atamachleni roikach." Every time you put the spoon in your mouth, your saliva goes out, and you put it back into the food. So if he put his fingers, so the Ran says when they put the fingers, they used to wipe their fingers every time before they put it back in. Fair enough. But the spoon, so the question is, what's better to eat with the fingers, with your hands, or with cutlery? So you get everything in the Gemara is covered. Rabbi Yehuda, we'll see the Gemara. So Rabbi Yehuda is a very poor person. Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Shimon, Isaac Kamai Bluth, and they brought before them some kind of a fig that was very difficult to digest. It wasn't fully ripe. Rabbi Yehuda ate it. Rabbi Shimon did not eat. Rabbi Yehuda, my time Rabbi Yehuda asked Rabbi Shimon, why aren't you eating it? Rabbi Shimon, Elu, and you ate somebody mine. It take a long time to go, digest and go through the system. Rabbi Yehuda, that's why I eat it. Rabbi Yehuda was seeing later was very poor, so if he ate that, then it was very cheap. It hung around for a while, so therefore he wouldn't be hungry. You look, your face is shining. There's a halo. Yesterday, your servants, I was very rich, went out to the field. They brought us tardin, beetroot. We ate them below melech. We couldn't afford. We had no salt. I would eat the beetroot with salt. Our face would have been shining as well. Now, the real reason why his face was shining, as the mother will say, is because the Talmud Chacham, his face, Chacham Adam, is made upon him. But you have time for him as Rebbe, so he said in a very able way, because of food. I don't want to say because I learned from them, so how upon him because he learned. He said because I ate this. The same question was asked by Amatronisa, the Senate, this aristocrat. Rabbi Yehuda, Ravi, you're a poisek, you're paskin, and you're drunk because his face was like beaming. Trust me, I swear in the life of this woman. I ate. The only time I drink wine is for Kiddush and Havdalah, and 4 cups of Pesach. The Chaygarni Tzidim in Pesach, I have to wrap around my forehead between Pesach and Shavuos because I get such headaches from drinking wine. In Shulchan Aruch, it brings down from here, based on the Bayit, it brings based on this that even if you have a headache from drinking wine, Arba Kosher, you have to drink. It does not bring regarding Kiddush and Havdalah. And interesting, it doesn't quote this Gemara here, Kosi Shami, which would tell us either they didn't have this Gis here at all, or because it says a Kiddush and Havdalah, we don't pass this with a Kiddush and Havdalah, so therefore we bring the Yerushalmi. Now the question is, if wine causes them to get such headaches, so how come between Pesach and Shavuos lasted for 7 weeks? So what about between Friday and Friday? He would have a whole year. Would have to have a wrap that thing around there, wrapped around his head. So obviously, Kiddush Havdalah, you only have to be Toyim. He didn't drink Rav Kais. He was Toyim. Maybe someone else drank it. But Arba Kais, you have to drink Rav Kais, and therefore he had no choice, and that caused him massive headaches. Big Machlek is not Charein, if you cannot drink wine, but you force yourself to, because it says in Shalom you have to, you make a bracha by Priyagafen. Because generally in Behichas Bichlanen it says that if it's mazik you don't make a bracha. But here, because of a mitzvah, what happens then? Big Machlekes. Ella, Chochmas Adam Toipano. The Gemara says here that the real reason is because Chochmas Adam Toipano. But he answered in Matronisa, in her way as well. I never drink wine. But also you see he drank wine for Abdullah Dimi Trachmar Medina, which we learned in Arab Sach. There was no problem. You can have beer, you can have other drinks. But no, he Dafka wanted wine, even though it caused him massive headaches. Now there's Duki who was just antagonizing. He said, your face looks like either Kemal Veribis or Kemal taunting him. You look like one of these rich people here that do nothing. They sit there and count the dollar bills. Either you lend an interest or you raise a pig, which is a good business to be in. And obviously that's why you look so happy. And obviously you can do Amalek. You know that by us both of these businesses are forbidden. Between my house and the base of Medrash are 24 bathrooms. Every hour I visit every single toilet. So obviously he was mocking this. But we had in the Gemara Shabbos that who's considered an usher, a rich person. Someone has and Gittin, somebody has a bathroom next to his table. Rabbi now Gemara can describe how poor Rabbi Yehuda is, and that's why he ate those figs, even though they're not mature. But it lasted a few days, and for him it was good. Rabbi Yehuda kad ozl be'medrash. When he went to Beis Medrash, shakol gufa al kashpe. He would put on this mantle around his shoulder. Sorry, he would take this barrel. Before we get to that, if he went to Beis Medrash, he would take a barrel, carry on his shoulder. Now we had the Gemara that a Talmud Chacham or a big rabbi should not do any malach in public in front of 30 people, and he walked around carrying a barrel on his shoulder. This malach is great because it gives cover to the owner. In other words, I'm going to use this to sit in Beis Medrash. I'm going to sit on the floor. Others want to say that the fact that they see the rabbi walking and working, that in itself is the cover. that he doesn't only take from the way the Rambam learns that you shouldn't just live off the largesse of the community. You should work for yourself as well. And there in the Rambam there were tights mechaded by the very fact that he walked outside, and that which the Gemara says that you shouldn't go outside. That which the Gemara says that a Talmid Chacham shouldn't work. It's talking about only the Nasi Hadar, somebody that where we learn Gadlei Mishalecho, that everybody has a duty and responsibility to make sure he has a good parnasa, that he doesn't have to work, so he can focus on his career. Rab Shimon shakal tzom lakash. Rab Shimon would take a basket on his shoulder. He said, "Gedei malachim chavei b'aylos." Say the same thing. That this work is the tzedek mitzvah. According to those who say, like Rashi says, that is every time a chacham shouldn't be working, not like the Rambam. So what it means over here is you're doing it in order to learn. You're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, then you're allowed to. The Visu de Rabbi Yehuda, the wife of Rabbi Yehuda, Nafka, she once went out, knocked at Amra. She got some wool of the Galima. The Hutba made it for the relative to their status. She made a nice little mantle, and she and her husband shared that coat. When she would go to the market, she would cover herself with it. Because Rabbi Yehuda went with Tzluya to Davin, have a mechase, and he would cover Umas and Davin. The Chad mechasebe, and when he would cover it, have a mevarech, he made a bracha baruch shoteni me'il. Now, two big machlekes and based on this Gemara, just show you a little stories in the Gemara. Number one is, how can he and his wife share one coat? What about silbush? A man is not allowed to wear women's clothing, a woman is not allowed to wear man's clothing. So based on this, they want to say, or somebody should want to say, in halacha as well, that when we say you're not allowed to wear a man's clothing or a man or woman's clothing, if it's that this is dedicated for a man or dedicated for a woman, but if it's non-generic, then there's no problem. Even if a woman wore it, there's no problem. But your wife wore it, the husband to wear it. Others disagree and have other shutting there. But this is only a coat. It's an outer thing. It's not a shirt or pants or something like clothes that hugs to your body. The other machlek is here by making a bracha. The Rosh brings from here a raya that when you're buying new clothes, you have to make shechiyanu. Others say, what raya you bring from here shechiyanu when the bracha you're making here is malbish harumim. In other words, it's not shechiyanu. The others want to bring it out of the Tanis want to bring it out from here that every time you buy a new coat, you have to make a bracha malbish harumim at least. Because and others say here is different because for them this is like very expensive. Remember, they're extremely poor, as we'll see. They shared one coat. Further, once God Rab Shimon Gamliel Tanisra, Rab Shimon Gamliel was Geizer Tainis, Rabbi Yehuda also the Beit Rabbi not go. Amrele leIsle Kisuye. They told Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, don't be upset why he didn't come and join you for the fast day. He doesn't have his coat. His wife must be wearing it today. He went somewhere else. Shadulek the Mishnah heard how poor he was. This is Rabbi Yehuda, the Tana that we find all over Shas. Imagine he had nothing. Couldn't even afford to go to join his Chavedim because he didn't have a coat. But like Kabil, so if Shimon ben Gamliel sent him a garment so he can come and join them, and he refused to accept it. So L'chayr Shimon will be very offended. So Doli Tzipti, he picked up a mat, and he showed the shliach. Chazi ma'ika. You see what's underneath here? And the Rishonim say there's a whole pile of gold coins. I don't have any hana from Eilam Hasan, so I'm not going to touch it. I have no problem with getting money. So thank you very much. I don't have any benefits from another person, so I don't want this coat either. Yeah, unless, and you don't want to use it, like the story of Shimon Yochai with his Talmidim. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.